2 minutes long. I have 2:30.
It is exactly.
Exactly. Mr. Mayor, it's exactly 2:30.
Okay. In that case, we're all good, right, Catherine?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Annie's here, so.
Annie's here, so we're full. Okay, good afternoon. My name's John Gregg. I'm the mayor of the town of Seabrook Island. We are convening the town council today for the January 2023 council meeting. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathleen, can you confirm that the meeting notice has been posted as is appropriate and that the other requirements of the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act have been satisfied?
They have.
Thank you for that. So the first order of business will be the approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the town council regular meeting of December 13th, 2022. May I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, or discussion concerning those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the town council of December 13th, 2022, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Next up, we have the town council work session meeting minutes from January 10th, 2022. 2023, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll get this. May I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes of the work session meeting of January 10th, 2023, please signify your approval by saying aye. Aye. Those minutes also are approved. Next up, we have the presentation by Councilman Corpolesi. It's an update from the Johns Island Task Force for the Angel Oak Preserve. Dan, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last meeting of the Johns Island Task Force, we had a presentation by the Angel Oak Preserve, which is part of the Low Country Land Trust Initiative. The information is in your packet, so I'm going to refer to that rather quickly. If you go down to page 15, there is the complete map of the area that we're talking about. One thing to keep in mind is that at one time, there was 100 houses that were proposed for this area around the Angel Oak through conservation efforts in the Low Country Land Trust and those types of initiatives. They purchased all the property, and thus we have this project that has been going on, and this is the first phase, the landscaping phase. It's really what they envision the park to look like in the future. This is more of a landscape design. There's more work to be done, but this is again how they envision it. If you go down to the next page, 16, you'll see that is where they envision a new parking lot coming in. If you notice down in the lower right-hand corner there's a new road that'll give access to directly on Bohicket Road to drive in there, and it will lead to a redone parking area. One of the biggest complaints that they've received over the years, and I know all of us have visited there from time to time, parking is very interesting to say the least. People park on the road. It's If it's after a rainstorm, you're going through mud, it's unsafe, people come by there, it's hard. If a bus happens to be there bringing tourists, needless to say that that's indeed a need that they envisioned, and that is there for, at the beginning and near that area. The number 2 on the map is a welcome center. So if you look at the drawing, this is what they envision. That's the drawing is the next page. You can see there's the parking area on the left a little bit and a small welcome center that would be added to this. Again, architects haven't had their shot on it, so don't take any drawings at their face value. But this is the kind of the idea. The parking lot will be stone impermeable, stone, so it's not pavement and concrete and so on. All right, the next, it shows you the area around the Angel Oak. Angel Oak is number 1. This is on page 18. Yeah, get my glasses right here. Page 18, number 1, lower in the middle. One of the things that you see there is that portion of that dirt road is going to be blocked off. They're going to go in a little bit on each end because there's certain properties that need access to, but for the most part, it is not going to be a through road anymore. So one is Angel Oak. If you go over to 2 and 3, number 3, you'll see a building there. Because of the heavy foot traffic and so on, they're planning on having timed and controlled access to the area around the oak tree. That is a map of the proposed path that will take you around there. There'll be seating areas and so on. And again, because of the uncontrolled visitors there now, there are times when there are a lot of people trampling over the roots. They've found through their studies that the roots go out a lot further, so they are making it much less access. The other part is in the next page, 19, gives you just an idea of the type of boardwalks that will be in the park. The next part is in their study of the land, they found a couple of things. They found over on the left-hand side in the middle there around number 12, that is a former plantation. And number 5 is enslaved worker cabins, footprints of those. These are things that they've found as they've been doing their work and going through this area. So they are going to try to make sure that those are preserved as part of the history of this area and include that as part of the park itself. Now, the next drawing itself is an outline of the foundations of the, this is page 21. Now, also notice they have those little brown, looks like curbs or whatever along the boardwalk there. That's where the information about the, that what you're looking at, the foundations and so on. They didn't want to put anything big and obtrusive in there. They're trying to keep all informational items low that people can come by, look at it, study it, and read about those different things. The next page on 22, if you look on the map, the upper part is they found there's a lot of wetlands there also. So number 10 is a place where you'll find wetlands and there'll be, paths along them and an elevated pass through the wetlands, so you could do like obviously some wetland studies. And again, that's about it. That's where they are right now. One of the things that piqued my curiosity when I heard this presentation was that in the past, we have allocated some greenbelt funds to the Angel Oak project. So this is a direct, these efforts here are part of our helping out and funding through Seabrook Island, the town of Seabrook Island. So they're moving along. Again, this is the preliminary design of the landscape and so on. And the next step is bringing in some architects to do some of the outbuildings and so on and going from there. One of the last thing I want to mention is that the Angel Oak Preserve is reaching out to the community for feedback in the form of a survey. And I've asked Catherine and to contact with Highlines to put out that link to the survey, because they're looking for people who visited, low country residents, low country visitors. So I think, like I said earlier, almost everyone from Seabrook at one time or another has visited Angel Oak. Whenever any of your friends come, that's the first place you take them. Oh, you got to see Angel Oak. So again, they're looking for feedback from the community with regards to next steps. So please ask people to fill out that survey, and we'll get that information out on Highlines. And that's about it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan concerning Angel Oak Preserve? Anyone? No questions, Dan? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, Catherine, do we have any citizens' comments on the agenda at this time?
We don't have any scheduled, but I do have some that we received prior to the meeting. We received one from Tom Bozeman. We received one in the mail from Mimi Price. We received one from Stephen Montague Pollock. We received another comment from Jane Cunningham. We received a comment from Douglas B. Michaels. We received a comment from Robert Sherry. We received a comment from Cynthia Robinson, and those have all been forwarded to members of council prior to the meeting and can be available upon request.
Very good. Thank you, Catherine. Next up, we have the reports of the town's boards, commissions, and committees. And the first of those will be the Community Promotions and Engagement Committee, and I'll call on Councilwoman Fox to give that report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Promotions and Engagement Committee met last Thursday, January 19th. At that time, our main point of business was to reopen the Community Promotions Grant Program. Just as a reminder, in 2023, that's this year, Council has allocated $7,500 to this. The minimum grant is $250 and the maximum grant amount is $1,500. Grant applications will be accepted starting February 1st. I believe this morning in Tidelines, we announced this. It was also on our website practically within minutes after our meeting on March 19th. The first review of the applicants will be on March 16th. The deadline to be considered during that first review is March 9th. We also discussed the new communications and events manager who will be coming hopefully at the beginning of March. We had a short discussion about the summer Chowtown events. We reviewed what was going on and also discussed the possibility of addition of alcoholic beverages to that event, those events. We closed the meeting with our town administrator, Joe Crone, presenting the early plans for the town hall annexation and garage, because there is an area there that would be of interest for my committee, this committee, because of the Chowtown events that we've been having. We will be skipping our February meeting because we really don't have much business, and we will be meeting again on March 16th to start the review process for the grant applications. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions for Pat concerning Communications, Promotions, and Engagement Committee? Anyone? No, thank you. Next up, Environment and Wildlife Committee. I'll call on Councilwoman Finke for that report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Environment and Wildlife Committee, our regularly scheduled meeting was, or is the second Thursday of the month, and that was January 12th. We met via Zoom for a presentation by Dr. Abby Sterling. She's with the Georgia Bight Shorebird Conservation Initiative. And it was a very exciting presentation. I don't want to take too much of council time because I think I need to set up through the mayor on the agenda in the next month or two, a more detailed presentation. Her office or her work is kind of under the umbrella of an organization called Manomet, which is a 50-year-old nonprofit, non-regulatory conservation organization. They're located up in Massachusetts, but they have projects all throughout the Western Hemisphere. And the exciting thing about this, housed in there under their umbrella, is something called the Western Hemisphere Shorebird Reserve Network. In short, they call it WISNER, so you don't have to have that mouthful every time. But they designate areas under WISNER as significant for shorebird migration. And Dr. Sterling's been working with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources for DeVoe Bank, but also looking at all the research and studies and activity up around our inlet, up and down our beach for Seabrook and over across the inlet at Kiowa, and would like to work with the town on our designation also to get this designation. They look at especially the red knot population and the migration through here as hemispheric significant of the whole Western Hemisphere. So it doesn't cost us any money. It's more an issue of community pride and engagement. They work with you on good governance, how everybody can exist together. And it's kind of like the Audubon designation as a sustainable community and what the golf course has for bird sanctuaries. So I thought it was very exciting. The committee is going to meet again next Tuesday to kind of discuss if they want to advise and recommend to council that we start that application process. I'm pretty confident that they will say yes. It can be done in segments. DeVoe Bank can move forward. They're already well into that with SCDNR. We can do it and Kiowa can do it. And we would have a whole chain of this significant designation. So I thought that was fairly exciting news, and it's something for the community to be really proud about because of the way we've managed our beach, and especially the way we established an ordinance for dogs on the beach that help protect that part of the beach and the migratory birds. Anyway, we're going to take that up again at our next meeting on January 31st. We're having a second meeting this month to cover some issues we're working on. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I will end my report.
All right, Jerry, any questions for Jerry concerning the Environment and Wildlife Committee and the presentation that she reported? No questions. All right, very well. Next up, Public Safety Committee. I'll call on Councilman Cortellesi for that report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, we had a meeting of the Public Safety Committee. At that time, we had a report from our CERT group. Steve Pollock came over to give us an update on where they are as a group and some of the things that they were doing. One of the things they are focusing on in the near future is to get people trained in CPR, making sure that everybody is updated and being able to handle that. We talked about various items with regards to where they help, how they help, and so on. And one of the things we did talk about was various forms of communications with radios, cell phones, and things like that during emergencies. So we'll continue to assess any needs that we have regarding communication. And if we need to do something in the near future, fine. If not, maybe we may need to budget something to upgrade for next year's budget, but we'll continue to look at that. The other thing we talked about was, if you remember, Catherine alluded to it, one of the citizen comments was about LSVs, specifically about LSVs from the gatehouse to the circle in that area. Joe Cronin wrote a very good letter explaining the rationale behind that and who's in charge and how we need to follow the uniform traffic code. I think that's the right word, from the state about doing about traffic on that. What we decided to do, though, and beyond that, is when we have a meeting with the county sheriff's department this year, and we've had one last year, we will do another one this year. We will talk about them patrolling, because not only was the speed of concern or lack of speed really our main concern as we looked at it, public safety, was people not adhering to rules of the road, children not wearing seatbelts, children sitting on the driver's laps, things like that, which, you know, I know that a slower LSV is a nuisance, but some of these, the way that some of these are driven around, it's not a golf cart, it's not a toy, and it is a vehicle, and they need to make sure that they operate it accordingly. So we'll talk to the county sheriffs about that. And the last thing is that we have scheduled our next Disaster Recovery Council meeting for March 21st. That will be in lieu of our Public Safety Committee meeting. At that time, I've already had confirmations from Joe Coates, who's the Charleston County Emergency Management Director. He will come and work with us. And specifically, we want to iron out all the issues that we faced last year with regards to returning to island after a disaster. And that is going to be the focus of this meeting on the 21st. So that, and also one of the things of interest to the group was getting a representative from the National Weather Service out of Charleston to have them come and tell us a little bit about how and what goes into the predictions of a storm and landfall, and really how far out can we really rely on those types of things. So we're trying to, I've had a couple of phone calls with the Charleston office of the National Weather Service, and the person who usually handles this hasn't been in the office. He's been doing presentations. Anyway, but I think we'll be able to get him on the agenda for the 21st. So I think it will be interesting to the group to see what goes into prediction of a storm coming up the coast or wherever it happens to be. And that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan concerning any of his report? I do have a question, Dan.
Yes.
Joe Coates is going to work with the DRC concerning return following, did you say following evacuation?
Yeah, if you remember last year, we had some questions about the issuance of the cards that we have for re-entering the island after a disaster. And the county's manual is pretty clear, and Joe, being relatively new in the position, has different policies or procedures that he's followed since before. So anyway, in order to iron out any problems and not wait until, oh, by the way, there's a storm coming, wanted to do this sooner rather than later. So I've already talked to him about that, and that's going to be one of the things we really work on. And I think it's important that both SAPOA and the club understand what goes into this returning to island. So obviously they're part of the DRC, and they will hear from Joe how this policy and procedure is going to go in the future.
And so far as town council members who are also part of the DRC, we will all be invited to participate.
The more the merrier.
Yeah,
The more.
I always agree with
Yes.
that notion, Dan, yeah.
So yes, and that's why I said the date, March 21st, because I know you all anxiously jotted that down. I noted that. And we will be welcoming you with open arms.
And that'll be after St. Patrick's Day, so we won't be green anymore by then, will we?
Well, and hopefully if you didn't celebrate too heavily, you know, you'll be well there and in good spirits.
Yeah, I think so. Any questions, any other questions for Dan? Hearing none. Next up, we have Barry Goldstein to give a report for the Public Works Committee. And I understand, Barry, you're going to review some drawings for the Town Hall Annex in the garage.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so last week we received the most recent update of drawings for the Town Hall Annex and the garage. So this is your chance to look at them. The Public Works Committee has not met, but they will be reviewing them the first Monday of next month. Myself, Joe Cronin, Robert Meyer, and architect went through these drawings last week. There weren't any significant changes from last time, but there are some elevation views which will give you a better idea of what things will look like from the outside. Joe and I and Robert did make some minor changes to the drawings. The architect has taken those back, and he will be making those adjustments. What you see here is probably, I would say, somewhere on the order of a 95% complete set of architectural drawings. His task, Mike Ramos's task, the architect, would be to make the few changes that we suggested. He's also finalizing a cost estimate. When I do have the cost estimate, I will bring that to town council so we can review that as well. In the meantime, when he is complete with the adjustments that we requested, he is going to get started on what is commonly referred to as the MEP, which would be the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing section of the buildings, along with the civil engineering sections. So things are moving along fast. Joe did bring up a question regarding any special permits needed for this, and Mike is going to get with his civil engineer and take a look to make sure there's nothing in particular that we need to do regarding permitting for any type of wetlands. Other than that, we will be forwarding, if not this set, the next set to our adjacent neighbor who has the right to review any development of the property. And that should be one of the last hurdles we have to get through, then we need to look at bidding the project out if we're going to proceed. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Barry, just one quick, in the first, site plan. I'm just, the new entrance is going to be that corner, correct?
Correct.
Is there going to be a path from the parking lot over there? I don't see a path on there. I was wondering.
Yes, so this drawing, so the last piece of this drawing has not completed yet. I think if you remember last time, we showed you a conceptual plan from ESP that showed for better way, a entrance way that was, what do we call it, Joe? It's a grand entrance way.
A grander.
A grand entrance way. It will be there. This drawing doesn't have it yet. Mike is gonna get with ESP and draw it up. It's basically an entrance way with, landscaped areas, paths, and leading into the building. So yes, that this drawing doesn't show that, but that, we call it, Joe calls it the plaza. So
The plaza.
it sounds nice, yeah.
No,
But yeah, so that, it's gonna be similar to what's shown on the previous sets of drawings from ESP, but he hasn't got that. He's gonna, like I said, get with ESP, get with his landscape architect, and that will be included in our last set of drawings to us.
And the other thing in here, I noted in the parking lot, there's the handicap spaces. Has there been anything yet? Remember Jerry brought up the last time the EV plugins, or,
I think on this drawing, it's shown in that green.
oh, is that what that is?
Near the garage.
Yeah.
shaded in green.
So that's where they are as of right now. That's where we're intending to put them.
I got you. Okay. I just, okay, thank you. I stand corrected.
Any other questions for Barry? Hearing none. All right, next up, let's see, special committees, no. Ad hoc committees, any update from the short-term rental ad hoc committee?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just make a quick comment in that both Pat and I have met with Joe over the last few months. Pat and I had a long discussion, sat down together. And I think the report is that we're going to do a little update report for council in February. Often we're accused of ignoring the short-term rental issue when in effect, we talk about it all the time. We, every month or every couple of months, we kind of do a snapshot of what the activity is. We're always looking at the activity and what we've learned over the last couple of years and compare it to last year's report, our conclusions and recommendations and how to go forward. So Pat and I kind of thought we would just pull that together. Joe's taken a deeper dive into a couple of the metrics we used in the report. So we thought we'd pull that together. It could just be a one-page thing we hand out to council with a few numbers. But our report is that we plan on a report. How's that?
Good. And you think that'll be for the February council meeting?
That was when Pat and I met, that was kind of our target, yeah, we can get, we wanted to make sure we had all the year-end numbers from the town and from the county on tax records on a couple of the metrics to look at, so.
Well, I think it's important, Jerry, that we do an update. We essentially, our public posture is we rely on the report, and the report has data that's now going to be a year old or more old. So as long as we have something to show that the updates have been considered with that report, I think we can continue to rely on the report.
That's our intention, Mr. Mayor, so.
Thank you very
we'll
much.
Still plan on February for that.
Okay. Any questions for Jerry as far as that goes? No? All right, hearing none. Board of Zoning Appeals, we wouldn't have an update. Planning Commission, no update. State Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee, no update. Utility Commission, I see Utility Commission Chair Annie Smith Jones in the audience. Would you like to give a report, Annie?
I would, Mr. Mayor, thank you
Thank
very
you for
much.
that.
This was from our meeting of January the 18th, 2023. First of all, we welcomed our new contractor on site. Current came in, started January the 1st. And they have a 5-year contract with us, with potential multiple extensions, depending upon how it all goes. But they onboarded all of our staff. All of our staff appeared to be very happy with their offers of employment, et cetera. So they're now on board and are diligently working with them. We've been receiving, the commissioners have been receiving a weekly update as to what they've been doing with the staff, the plants, et cetera, who's been visiting, why, and what training they're undertaking, et cetera. A lot of very different things than what our past contractor has been like, which was really probably part of why we were looking for a change. In any case, the staff seem to be very positive. I've spoken to a number of them and they really seem to be very quite happy with the direction that we're going with that. On our financial report, normally in our January meeting, we would have both November and December to review, but given the changeover, one of the staff persons, our comptroller that had been with utility, was hired by the previous contractor full-time. So she's left our employment and has switched over to Louis Berger Hawthorne. And so we are, of course, at the end of our fiscal year, and that happened December 31st. So we are diligently working along with the new contractor to be able to close our December books. But in any case, because of that situation, we did not receive a December financial report. But the November financial report is that we remain in normal variation of our budget for the year. The net income for November was a surplus of $109,553. Capital acquisitions during the month were $169,469. And after adjusting for bonds, notes, principal payments, November showed a cash deficit of $55,316. Our year-to-date basis for net income is $1,083,000 plus a little. And after adjustments of capital purchases and principals, bond payments, et cetera, there's a surplus of $494,394. On the operations report, we had both November and December's report. In November, our effluent quality continued to meet our permit requirements during the month. The daily average flow was 0.375 million gallons per day, with a maximum flow of 0.483 million gallons for the month. Our total effluent and deep well water pumped to Seabrook golf courses for irrigation was 4.2 million gallons of effluent and 8.4 million gallons of deep well water. For Oak Point Golf Course, it was 6.47 million gallons of effluent and 0 deep water. In December, we again continued to meet, our effluent continued to meet all permit requirements for the month. The daily average flow was 0.356 million gallons a day, with the maximum flow of 0.489 million gallons for the month. The total effluent and deep water well pumped to Seabrook Island golf courses for irrigation was 7.151 million gallons of effluent and 0 million gallons for deep well water. And to Oak Point Golf Course, we pumped 0.505 million gallons of effluent and 0 deep water. For water distribution, November, we delivered 22 million plus gallons of water for the month compared to 23 million last year. In December, we delivered 18,317,000 plus a little bit, and compared to last year's 19.5 million. Under old business, we talked a little bit about staffing. We're down to staff right now. Our current contractor is focusing very much on trying to recruit and bring staff in. We talked a little bit about that. We talked about the SCIP funding, and we continue to wait to hear on that one. I'm hearing at this point what had originally been supposed to be the beginning of the new year. I'm now hearing the end of the first quarter. So we'll see what happens with that. We talked briefly about some of the new developments going on out there, because I continue to receive varieties of phone calls and et cetera in regard to that. Under new business, WNC presented sort of what was going on in transition. As I indicated to you, the staff moved very smoothly through their HR process. They're into doing IT now and safety work, getting them used to the new culture, et cetera, et cetera. We did do in this last month routine sewer inspections for the year. We did about 1,500 feet of sewer pipe inspection, and we found them all to be in excellent condition. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Annie. Any questions for Annie?
Yeah, Annie, just one thing. It sounds like this migration from the old contract to the new is going very well. What are some of, just a couple, maybe one or two things that the new contractor can give you that the old contractor couldn't or wouldn't?
Sure. They're at the moment really taking a rather comprehensive look as far as where we stand, health and safety, everything from health and safety to even the nuts and bolts of the stuff we store that we need to have, you know, and they're really sort of inventorying and taking a hard look at where we were. The old contractors certainly did not do that. The amount of expertise that they have specifically in running sewer plants, sewer and water plants, they have a lot of knowledge. And one of the ways, so I looked at that and sort of checked on that was the staff, their licenses, are they licensed specifically and at what levels, comparable to how our staff are licensed? Do they have the ability, if we had a hurricane come in and shut things down, do we, you know, are they able to provide staff to come in here on a moment's notice to get in here and help us to do whatever we need to do to try to be operational as quickly as possible? All kinds of technical support that we certainly never had with our last contractor. Our last contractor did not have a single utility plant that they ran. So it's very different. So the amount of support is really one of the biggest. And technical expertise. I mean, I think they're gonna, you know, if we want to look at something, you know, they'll say, sure, let's look at it, you know, whatever. I really think it will be a much, much better situation. And even the financial side of things, we've got one of their chief operating financial officers with the company. He spent this last week down here with us, and you know, we sort of just reviewing our books and going over things. And he's the one actually who gave us the November report and is currently working on our December closeout and so forth. So it's really the difference between night and day.
Yeah, given that a lot of the concerns from people are, can we meet future needs and so on, whether it's future development, you alluded to that, and someone, I guess this company is going to be examining those types of things as part of the ongoing process of running the plan or not?
Not so much necessarily capacity, that's not within the realm of their contract with us.
Okay,
Their contract is a staffing contract.
okay,
And, you know, things that would relate to the staff such as HR and benefits, but also health and safety, technical expertise, for supporting the staff, et cetera. So not necessarily per se capacity, although they've got a full engineering, they're a contractor or that has both technical side to them, but they also have an engineering consulting side. So we in fact did hire them. They were the ones that put together our grant proposal. So they do have capacity that if we want to hire them for certain things, they certainly are more than willing and happy. But currently, that is outside the given contract.
gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Annie?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. Annie, when we had those 4 or 5 days of super cold nights and we were getting those notices from Charleston County.
For me, in Taiwan,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I know people around the island had frozen pipes, but did the utility commission have any problems with frozen pipes or anything actually at the facility? I know that water's moving all the time, so.
Yeah, no, we had, there were some minor leaks around, but nothing almost out of the norm for us.
Okay.
Most of those reports that you saw that I put in Thailand, they were really geared towards St. John's Water Company, who supplies our water. They were having very low pressure in their lines due to people utilizing so much water, et cetera. And when their pressure drops too low, they would have to, under an advisory, go and start tell people that they have to use bottled water. If that should happen, we would have to follow that as well because we get our water from them, even though we're not directly impacted. Our water, we had unusually high water demand for the time period, the month that it was. That's much more common in the summer when everybody's here. But at this particular time, it wasn't. And I think really probably what it was people turning on their taps, very low dripping water in order to make sure they didn't wind up with frozen pipes. So we had a higher demand, and I think it was really due to that, but we ourselves, no, we didn't have any issues whatsoever.
Interesting though, when you went through the data, you said that last year's December, you used actually more water than I thought this year with all the dripping and so on. Maybe I heard it wrong. It seemed like you used more water in 2021 than 2023.
Let's see, where is that? Let me see.
One was 18 and one was 19 or something.
Well, what I reported is the normal amount of, let's see, where is that? There we go.
I just thought it was interesting, given.
Yes, that is true, but remember last year, if I had to guess, you know, we had so many people because of COVID and what have you, that I think were on the island, hiding out on the island, if you will.
That naturally,
That we had unusually high numbers during some of that, really that COVID period than what we would normally have.
yeah.
So,
But anyway, when you mentioned those two numbers, I thought, wow, given all the frozen pipes just spouting all over the place and the drip, because I know we did that at our house and on the outdoor spigots and showers and things
Yeah.
like that, and it was like, yeah, goodness.
yeah, but we had very little as far as leaks that were reported to us that we ourselves had nothing.
And I think you have to wonder too, if we have a really warm December, because the irrigation system on, so last year was a really warm December, we never
That's right.
turned off irrigation, so we're watering. all the
That's
time.
right. I
Yeah,
mean, Yeah,
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of factors.
Lots of things impacted.
Very good, thank you, Annie, thank you all. Next up, we'll have the report of the mayor. My first item here is an update concerning the town's request for public assistance. Relating to Hurricane Ian, the town was notified that FEMA has undertaken to transition the previously established Hurricane Ian restricted emergency declaration to a so-called major declaration. In conjunction with that transition, it was necessary for the town to participate in a second so-called scoping meeting held by teleconference on January 14th. The FEMA online facility for the town's request for public assistance reflects that the town currently has no open tasks, and hence there is currently no action required by the town in respect of its request. So we're back before they decided to transition to a major declaration. We were just sitting and waiting for FEMA review. We had to go through this second scoping meeting, and now we're back on waiting for FEMA review. So there's nothing to report really until they conclude their work reviewing our request. I have a follow-up with MUSC concerning the open request for a donation from the town in response to members' comments during the January work session. I have relayed an inquiry to the town's contact at MUSC concerning possibility of assistance with a matching approach for a town donation to donations from Seabrook residents. I also inquired as to information concerning uses MUSC would make of donations received from the town besides the previously provided naming rights schedule. You may recall when we were first approached by MUSC for a donation, they had provided us a schedule of naming rights with suggested amounts of donations. And just if you looked at that, you would say quite a bit more than the town would probably be donating in order to avail themselves of a naming right according to that schedule. So in any case, I have advanced the queries back to MUSC as we discussed at the January work session. And last up, we now have an acceptance of our offer for a communications and events manager. That would be Robin Ochoa. And I believe she's expected to start on or about March 1st. Joe, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, she'll be joining us. She's moving here from Virginia, 26-year Army veteran. She worked with the generals, very highly qualified to take on this position. She's very excited to be joining us. She did have to put her house up for sale, which is why we've been saying on or around March 1st, but she did let me know last week that her house is sold in 3 days. So she's now trying to move up her closing down here. But right now we're still looking tentatively at March 1st, but if she's not able to move up her closing date, it might be a little bit after that. When we made the offer, it was conditioned on successful passage of a drug screening and background check. And when you have somebody dealing with generals, that's usually not something that you place a lot of concern in, but everything did come back clean. So everything is good to go. We're just waiting on the final start date.
Very good, thank you, Joe. Next up, we will have the report of the town administrator, Joe.
The only item I have is a quick update on the MyGov implementation. That's our online licensing and permitting software system. We have gotten, I guess we call it the initial draft of the system. Right now, our staff members are going through training and identifying issues, kinks, things that need to be corrected, changed, updated, and whatnot. So we are now in that process. Did they give us updated timeframe at all? We had a scheduled go live meaning it's ready for us to start using and testing, not go live available to the public. So we had that yesterday, and our staff members were participating in that. So really at this point, it's just identifying issues, tweaks to the system to get it working the way that we want it to work. At this point, I don't have any reason why we won't have it ready to go when we start our renewal process sometime around mid to late March or so, or probably mid-March. What we've talked about internally as we start making the transition, at least initially, folks can still come in, at least probably for the first year, do their licenses, do their permits, either online or here in person. I think eventually we'd like to get to the point where we would stop accepting paper applications and move everything to the online system. So we'll probably take a year or so to the first year to kind of get everything ironed out, everyone in and used to using that system. And then ideally by the 2024 renewals, we'd be doing everything online through that system. I think the main outstanding items, except for corrections and the tweaks, Catherine's been working with BC3 to try to get all of our old license and permit data converted and entered into the system so that we can move off of that system and have everything housed in one location. So we're still working with BC3 to try to get that undertaken. Is there anything that I missed that you want to add? Okay, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe?
Just curious, if you do move away from paper, will you have like a kiosk or something or a computer around the grounds here for people to come in and fill it in?
Yeah, we talked about that. We would probably in the budget that we adopt for 24, look at doing something along those lines.
Okay.
Something we might even want to talk with Mike about, including a spot or something in our town hall plans as well. But yeah, I think at a minimum, we'd have a desk or some sort of kiosk or something where people could come and, if they don't have access to a computer or something, they could fill it out here. But we don't anticipate having one immediately when it goes live, because they would still have the option of doing either or.
Would there be an app that we have to do that with?
I don't believe there's an app, but it is a web-based program, so you can just open up your browser on a phone or tablet or something like that and do it.
Because most of these people have an access to their phone right there, if they do.
They do, but there's a lot of instances where they'd have to pull attachments and surveys and site plans, and they may or may not have that information on their phones.
Any other questions for Joe? Hearing none. Let's see now. Are we really up to the report of the town clerk treasurer at this time for the month of December 2022?
Yes, sir.
Please, Catherine, give us your report.
The total fund balance ending on December 31st, 2022 was $8,398,562, an amount about $1,344,829 more than the balance as of December 31st, 2021. Unrestricted revenue for December totals $336,973, and unrestricted revenue for the year totals and $64,299, representing about 134.6% of the 2022 annual budget, and being about $307,813 more than the same period in 2021. Expenditures for December totaled $162,060, and expenditures for the year totaled $1,232,041, which is about 83% of the 2022 annual budget. Expenditures for the year were about $185,902 more compared to the same period of 2021. Excess of revenues over expenditures was $174,913 for December, and the excess of revenues over expenditures was $832,259 for the year, compared to an excess of revenues over expenditures of about $704,967 as of December 2021, reflecting the increase in revenues in the period this year as compared to last year's. One note I will mention is some of the 2022 December budget or financials that I just mentioned were some estimates on the accruals from this year. We're still waiting on some revenues coming in, like the Berkeley Electric Co-op and some, like the December county permits. We still haven't received that check. So we'll have an updated financials that I'll send to y'all once we get those, the actuals put in. These were just kind of based, December was kind of based off of some estimates. Yeah, and that includes sales tax and A-tax as well. Another thing I'll add that wasn't on the agenda is, I know last time I mentioned that there was going to be a jury trial this month due to some scheduling conflicts and the unexpected death of the attorney. The jury trial has been continued. Letters were sent out to those that I sent summonses to be a juror. Letters were sent out that said that you are no longer required to serve. We'll be getting a new jury pool when we have a new date selected. Right, as of right now, we're not sure of when that date will be.
Very good. Thank you, Catherine. Any questions for Catherine? Hearing none. Next up, we'll have the report. We don't have a report of the town attorney, do we, Catherine? Not so far as I know. So next up, we'll have a report of the zoning administrator, stroke chief code enforcement officer, Tyler Newman.
Thank you, Mayor Gregg. The only thing I have for you today is the code enforcement summary, ranging from our last regularly scheduled town council meeting on December 13th to present. Since that last town council meeting, we had 38 occurrences where we caught individuals working without a town business license. The stop work order was issued in each one of those instances. We had 13 where individuals were caught working without a town permit. We had 2 violations on the beach, both of which were related to dogs being off of the leash, and a warning was issued in both of those occurrences. We had 2 occurrences of short-term rental properties that had trash cans left out beyond the range of time that's allowable. Both of those occurrences, the management company was contacted and the issue was resolved. And then we had 81 vehicle decal warnings that were issued in that month. And that concludes the code enforcement summary.
Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler at this time? Hearing none. Just moving just rapidly through this. Next up, we'll have no ordinances for second reading. We did have an ordinance for first reading at our December meeting.
Yeah, that
And
was
we're
the-
delaying the second.
Yeah, the Berkeley franchise agreement. We have that on hold. We've received the Dominion franchise agreement. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. That is currently going through legal review. We have a meeting scheduled, I think it's Friday at 11, with Stephen Brown, the town attorney, to discuss that draft agreement. So at this time, I expect to hopefully have the Dominion one on the agenda for February, and then we would bring that for first reading, and then we would bring both ordinances back at the same time for second reading and public hearing, probably in March.
Thank you, Joe. We have no ordinances today for first reading. Other action items. Jerry, this must be from you, town council statement of support for Seabrook Island birders
It
and
is.
the shorebird steward program.
Yes. I'll make a motion here in a minute, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt this statement of support, but just a few comments before I make that motion. First off, council's adopted this with just a few changes the last 3 years. This is essentially the same statement we adopted last year. The major difference is last year we had a fairly detailed paragraph about COVID protocols on the beach with the sighting scope and social distancing. That paragraph's gone. We just kind of added a sentence that said, if the situation warranted it with COVID reemerging or some new pandemic that we hope we never see, that they would practice the proper safety and health protocols. I wanted just to call attention to last year, we put in some language about the research on the beach and kind of giving the okay for the researchers to ask people to walk around the flocks of birds and everything. And I just want to acknowledge how important that is. And this research paper has come out. It's from the research, that counts everything they did in 2021. From University of South Carolina. They did it with South Carolina DNR and the many volunteers from Seabrook Island and also Kiowa that work with the shorebird program. So I should have called out to Mark Andrews when I was talking about the Environment Committee. His work and contacts got us the presentation from Dr. Sterling. Mark and other volunteers from the birders were super important to this report. And this report really documents how important our beach is, especially to the red knots and such critical habitat. And talking about 40% of the whole population stops here in the migration pattern. And it's also in this report about the recognition of the site and its importance. And I'm just going to read this. To this end, we recommend the nomination of Keel and Seabrook Islands and the neighboring DeVoe Bank as a site of hemispheric importance in the Western Hemisphere Shorebird Reserve Network. So that research that goes on out there is very significant and it produces results. And if anybody wants to read this report, I'll make a copy for you. It might be something fun to post on our website and then drop down there. Anyway, we've done this for 3 or 4 years. It gives some legitimacy to the birders, the stewards being out there conducting their education program. And it's also very protective of the habitat as the birds are not disturbed and the research can go on. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we adopt this statement of support for the program.
Very good, Jerry. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion concerning the motion for the adoption of the statement? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of adoption of the statement, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
I believe that was unanimous, so the statement as proposed is approved for adoption. Next up, there are no items for information or discussion, I guess. So any citizens' comments that have come in during the meeting, Catherine?
No, sir.
None. Annie, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I would, Mayor, thank you. I saw in your town council meeting, town work meeting, I believe it was, this last time that, you were following up on a question that was raised previously as far as asking, the town lawyer, Stephen Brown, to come in, I guess, and address town council members in regard to SIUC. Did that get scheduled? Do you know when it's gonna happen? Will that be, obviously it will be public. I'm curious to know where that is.
It has not been scheduled. We are going to be talking with the town attorney on Friday morning, and he had indicated we have another matter of business for
Correct.
that discussion, but he had indicated that he had a request from me to come and speak with council. So I think we may get to talk about when he can come and speak to council on Friday morning.
Will you be doing one of your normal town council meetings, I presume?
Well, we have 2 meetings a month, so whether it comes at a town council meeting or
That's
a
fine.
council work session, either way.
I presume you will.
Concerns that were expressed by members of council were really directed to the challenge we face with making appointments to the commission for 6-year terms. And we're now, as I believe we made this point before, we now have a utility commission comprised entirely of appointees rather than elected members. So, you know, the ordinance calls for an election, and then people resign and we make an appointment, so now we have only appointees.
No, I understand that. I just want to make sure that it's proposed to be obviously one of the 2 sessions and that it will be publicized.
Well, his appearance, when it is scheduled, once it is scheduled, will be on the agenda for the meeting for which he's scheduled to appear.
Very good, thank
And of course, our agendas, as you know, are always published.
you. Of course, there.
We have
I understand that.
no hidden agendas here, as you know.
Of course, I know that.
Thank you. Any council comments? No. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the January council meeting for January 2023? Please signify your approval to adjourn by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
You are adjourned. Thank you.